The planet was called Iridonis by the Galactic Mapping Council, but humans named it Thorn's Edge after the first recon drone was shredded mid-flight by a razor storm that rose out of nowhere. Orbiting a red dwarf in a forgotten sector, the world was a jagged nightmare of stone needles, ultraviolet flares, and electrostatic clouds that howled like dying beasts. No intelligent species had ever claimed it. Until now. Captain Raya Thorn, namesake of the world, stood on a black ridge with her helmet's polarizer dimmed to near opacity. Below her, the shattered landscape shimmered with pale energy veins running through the rocks, remnants of something ancient. Something powerful. Behind her, the rest of Omega Detachment huddled in the lee of a jagged outcrop, their equipment humming low against the planet's magnetic groan. "Signals getting stronger," said Corporal Milo, tapping the wrist module fused into his armor. "It's coming from the crater. Direct center." "The readings are off," muttered Lieutenant Asimov, glancing at the flickering holomap. "Seismic pattern isn't natural. No tectonic activity. But it's breathing." Captain Thorn didn't reply immediately. Her eyes were fixed on the pulsing light at the crater's core. When Earth scouts first picked up the anomaly, it had been dismissed as another echo of dead civilizations, maybe a lost AI node, a weathered relay, nothing worth risking a team. But then the consortium got wind of it. And when the consortium moved, humanity had learned to move faster. "Helmets sealed," she said. Her voice was calm, absolute. "No one touches the surface directly. We go in quiet." The team moved like shadows across the ragged terrain. Human special forces had long abandoned the bulky power suits favored by other species. Adaptability and cunning had proven deadlier than armor. Omega wore adaptive weaves laced with atmospheric sensors, quick-hack emitters, and kinetic deflectors thin enough to pass for cloth. Everything they needed to vanish into the impossible. They reached the crater rim by dusk, not that the light changed. Iridonis didn't have a sun in the traditional sense. The sky was always angry red, filled with streaks of aurora born of radiation and magnetics. Down below, in the dead heart of the crater, sat the artifact. It wasn't metal. Not exactly. It looked like petrified light, coalesced into a sphere suspended above the ground by no visible means. Symbols, faintly moving, glowed across its surface. It hummed. Thorn stepped closer. Her suit sensors went dead. Then, just as quickly, flared back to life, but everything had changed. The air pressure had dropped by 30%. The temperature fell. Audio feeds began broadcasting static. And underneath it all, there was a voice. Not speaking. Singing. "Athena," she whispered, activating the embedded AI in her neural link. "Run linguistic scans." "Is this a broadcast?" "Not a broadcast," the AI replied, its voice steady. "It's not meant to be heard. It's meant to be felt." Thorn's skin prickled despite the sealed suit. "Milo, set up remote relays. We need this data off-world immediately." "No can do, Cap," Milo said, blinking at his own HUD. All comms just dropped. "External bands are dead." A low rumble echoed through the crater. Not from the artifact, from the sky. A shape emerged from the ion mist above them. Long, angular, and utterly alien. "Consortium vessel," Asimov growled. "Class, Harbinger." They weren't supposed to be within a week's jump. "They weren't," Thorn muttered. "They used a breach drive." "That's," Milo started. "Illegal." "Yeah." The Harbinger didn't fire. It didn't need to. Small, insectal pods began descending, each one sleek and violet-black, trailing lightning tendrils. Elite hunter-killers. Not meant to take prisoners. "They're here for the artifact," Asimov said, locking a magazine into his rifle with a click. "They're here for us," Thorn corrected. "Dead or alive doesn't matter. They can't let us take this. Then the artifact spoke. Every member of Omega heard it differently. For Thorn, it was her father's voice, gone 20 years, whispering her childhood name. For Milo, it was the sound of the piano his mother used to play in the evenings. For Asimov, a symphony no human had ever written, but he somehow remembered note by note. The voice bypassed language and memory. It went straight to the soul. And then, just as the first pods touched down, it chose. The artifact flared, brighter than any weapon. And vanished. So did Thorn. There was no sound. No light. No up. No down. Then, breath. Captain Thorn opened her eyes. She stood not in the crater, not on Iridonis, but in a place that defied geometry. A void filled with color that bled in and out of perception, where distant structures floated like memories carved into crystal. The artifact, the sphere, hovered before her, its form now fluid, as if adapting to her gaze. Where, she began. Where it matters, a voice said, not in her ears, but inside her. The same voice that had sung in the crater. No language, no accent. Just, understanding. The sphere pulsed once, and her mind opened. She saw images, not with her eyes, but with the part of the brain that dreams. Planets forming. Civilizations rising and dying like sparks in a fire. She saw tall beings of light and stone building constructs of immense power, not to conquer, but to preserve. The artifact was one of many. A seed. A message in a bottle tossed across the dark tides of time. And the message was clear: you are not alone. You were never alone. But now, you are the last. The vision shattered. Thorn gasped, reeling back as gravity reasserted itself. She was lying on her back inside a structure, not the crater. Smooth obsidian walls surrounded her, etched with the same shifting symbols. The artifact floated above her chest, silent now. Watching. A figure stepped into view. It wasn't human. At least, not entirely. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, but its skin shimmered with starlight, and its eyes were galaxies. It knelt beside her. You survived the calibration, it said, and this time, the words were real, spoken aloud. Most species don't. Thorn sat up slowly, muscles aching with memory. Where am I? A place that remembers. A sanctuary built before your stars were born. Why me? The being tilted its head. Because your kind was not supposed to find us. Yet here you are. That means everything has changed. Back on Iridonis, chaos ruled. Sergeant Asimov barked orders as the remaining team spread into defensive positions. The drop pods had landed, but what emerged wasn't standard consortium troops. These were harvesters. Tall, insectal things, more machine than life, with bladed limbs and optical clusters that scanned for heat, motion, even fear. Milo fired first. His bolt punched clean through one, but another leapt from the shadows, impaling his leg. He dropped, yelling, but kept firing as Petrov dragged him back. Another harvester shrieked and exploded as Rodriguez hurled a plasma grenade into its midsection. Where the hell is Captain Thorn? Someone shouted. She's gone, Asimov snapped. Artifact took her. We hold. We finish this. In orbit, the Harbinger vessel unleashed a wave of jamming signals. Omega detachment was completely cut off. No comms, no evac. And worse, the crater had begun to change. The ground shifted. Veins of light spread outward from the center, tracing alien circuits into the rock. The artifact was no longer a relic, it was active. Back in the sanctuary, Thorn faced the being of light. You knew they'd come, she said. The consortium. The harvesters. They always come, the being replied. That's why we hid the seeds. To find those who could resist them. Who could adapt. Only your kind has ever passed the trials. Thorn stepped forward. What trials? The being pointed to the sphere. That is not a weapon. It is a gateway. It linked you here. You are not its wielder. You are its bearer. And that means you must choose. Choose what? To unlock what lies beneath your world, the being said, voice soft. The final vault. A gift. Or a curse. You won't know which until it's opened. Thorn clenched her fists. And if I say no? The being looked at her, truly looked, as if peering into her soul. Then your people die today. And tomorrow. And again. Until there are none left. She turned to the sphere. It floated closer, symbols whirling now in a pattern that seemed to match her heartbeat. She felt heat, sorrow, memories of her first combat drop, of her father's stories about old Earth wars. She thought of Milo bleeding out, of Rodriguez laughing through gunfire. Of her team. She touched the artifact. It sang. On Iridonis, the crater exploded with light. The harvesters froze mid-attack, their sensors overwhelmed. A pulse of blue fire swept outward, not destroying, transforming. Stone shifted. Shapes emerged. Towers that had been buried under eons of rock unfolded like origami. Alien machines rose, awakened by the signal. Omega detachment stared in disbelief as what had been a war zone became something else. A fortress. A beacon. A message. And from the light stepped Captain Thorn, wreathed in alien fire, eyes glowing with the same impossible light as the artifact. Captain? Asimov said, eyes wide. She looked different, the same armor, but altered now, reinforced with alien circuits that pulsed with awareness. They chose us, she said simply. Rodriguez whistled low. Damn right they did. They called it the beacon. The ancient structure rose from the heart of Iridonis like the skeleton of a forgotten god. Hexagonal towers wrapped in glowing circuitry pierced the red sky. Drones, not consortium, not human, floated silently along predetermined arcs, scanning, repairing, observing. Energy crackled along conduits that hadn't seen light in eons. Captain Thorn stood at the center of it all, her team around her, silent and wide-eyed. Rodriguez finally broke the silence. I'm guessing this wasn't in the mission briefing. Nope, Petrov muttered, eyes locked on a levitating construct that hummed as it passed overhead. Thorn knelt and pressed her palm to the ground. Symbols flared beneath her fingers, not hostile, not random. Responsive. Alive. The alien armor now fused with her body pulsed in harmony with the beacon's rhythm. She felt a heartbeat, not her own, not the planet's. The structures. It's awake, she said. Asimov stepped forward cautiously. So what now? We plug in? Phone home to our ancient benefactors? Let them know humanity's ready for a bigger seat at the table? Thorn didn't answer immediately. She was still listening. Not with ears, with something deeper. The beacon wasn't just a machine. It was watching. Suddenly, Milo's wrist beacon flared red. Consortium reinforcements incoming, he yelled. 4 Harbinger-class warships, 24 dropships. ETA, 12 minutes. Of course they come now, Rodriguez growled, unslinging his weapon. No, Thorn said, standing. They've always been coming. We just didn't matter before. Now we do. The ground beneath them shifted again. From the sides of the crater, great doors opened, revealing lifts, consoles, defense arrays long dormant. You feelin' what I'm feelin'? Petrov asked softly, glancing toward the rising structures. Oh yeah, said Asimov, eyes gleaming. We're standing in an ancient planetary defense grid. Thorn turned toward the others. We hold the beacon. We don't retreat. We show them what happens when you corner something that evolved on a world that tried to kill it every day. A moment of silence. Then Rodriguez clapped his hands. Hot damn, Cap. That's the speech I needed. They moved fast. Milo accessed the defense consoles, his interface adapting rapidly thanks to Thorn's translation imprint. Dozens of turrets rose from the crater rim, sleek and alien. Asimov and Petrov fortified the perimeter with deployable shields and decoy emitters. Kim, who hadn't said much since the crater exploded with light, stepped up beside Thorn. "You brought us back," she said, voice low. "But what did it give you?" Thorn looked at her. "Perspective. Access. And something else. Which is?" "I don't think I was given anything," Thorn said, eyes hardening. "I think it recognized what was already in us." The sky split open. Consortium dropships screamed down like iron meteors. The Harbinger warships hovered just beyond low orbit, sending comms traffic bursts Thorn didn't bother decrypting. They weren't here to talk. "They still don't understand," she said as the first wave touched down. The defense grid came to life. Blue beams sliced across the battlefield, targeting landing craft with surgical precision. Antimatter lances melted armor before boots hit dirt. But the Consortium were relentless. For every ship that fell, 3 more descended. Their soldiers spilled from hulls like insects, genetically modified, cybernetically enhanced, indoctrinated to see anything non-consortium as less than alive. But they weren't ready for Omega. Petrov's deployables triggered chain detonations that turned ambush into art. Asimov rerouted power from beacon lines to short out enemy exosuits. Kim jammed entire comms channels by overriding alien protocol stacks with nonsense transmissions from Earth, cat memes, audio of thunderstorms, static-laced jazz. And Thorn, she moved like she wasn't bound by the same physics as anyone else. The armor didn't just protect her. It understood her. Anticipated movement. Reacted before she consciously chose. She disarmed 3 Consortium troopers without firing a shot, redirecting kinetic force with motions that felt ancient and new at once. But it wasn't enough. The sky darkened again. A shadow fell over the crater. Not a ship, something bigger. Something older. A vessel shaped like a crescent blade, blacker than vacuum, gliding silently into lower orbit. Milo's breath caught in his throat. "That's not Consortium." "No," Thorn whispered, a chill in her chest. "It's worse." The AI in her mind, the one bonded through the artifact, stirred. Precursor echo detected. Vaultwatcher-class vessel. Function, quarantine enforcement. Quarantine. That word cut through the noise like a blade. "They're not here to protect us," Kim said, stunned. "They think we're contaminated." Asimov's voice was grim. "They're not wrong. We broke something ancient open." Above them, the Vault Watcher began to glow. Rodriguez swore. "It's charging something." "No," Thorn said, eyes locked on the sky. "It's judging us." She took a step forward, activating her comm, and routed it through the beacon's own transmission systems. A pulse burst from the crater, not a message, not a threat, a proof. It carried the imprint of every member of Omega. Not their weapons. Their memories. Struggles. Losses. Triumphs. Humanity, raw and unfiltered, broadcast into the mind of an ancient ship whose builders were long gone. The Vault Watcher paused. So did the world. And then, impossibly, the ship dimmed. The Vault Watcher did not fire. It simply watched. A silence fell over Iridonis more complete than vacuum. The Consortium forces froze, uncertain. Their uplinks, usually saturated with commands, now buzzed with static. Every drone, every trooper, every war algorithm stalled, as if awaiting a verdict. Captain Thorn stood in the crater's heart, her armor glowing with circuitry not designed by human hands. Her pulse synced with the beacon's rhythm, and with it, the pulse of something older than war. Then the transmission came, not through standard comms, but through resonance. A voice without tone, speaking not in sound but in concept. Inheritance acknowledged. Species, variant primate. Designation, humanity. Trait, adaptive. Status, conditional. Milo staggered as the signal hit. Petrov grabbed his head. What was that? Not language, Kim whispered. It's talking to our DNA. The Vault Watcher pivoted slightly in orbit, like a judge turning toward the jury. Then the signal shifted. Threshold event imminent. Access protocols enabled. Final custodian notified. What the hell is a final custodian? Asimov said. But Thorn already knew. Images flooded her mind. Structures buried across dead worlds. Civilizations lost not to war, but to silence. A silence designed. Enforced. Species deemed too dangerous, too chaotic, too unpredictable were simply erased. Until now. Because something had broken the cycle. And that something was them. The beacon's not a weapon, Thorn said, turning toward her squad. It's a signal tower. A test. We triggered it. And now. The sky tore open. A second Vault Watcher arrived, sleeker, faster, and different. Its hull shimmered with impossible curvature, as though built in dimensions human minds weren't wired to comprehend. Its arrival shattered the clouds and distorted the air for kilometers. And this one did not hesitate. A beam struck the surface of Iridonis not with heat or explosion, but with erasure. A perfect cylinder of matter vanished, soil, rock, air, all gone. Where it struck, nothing remained. Not even time. Move! Thorn screamed. Omega scattered as another beam lanced out, carving silence across the ground like a surgeon's blade. The consortium troops weren't spared, their armor crumpled mid-stride, their bodies unmade. Milo ducked behind a spire, panting. Okay. Not judging. But didn't you say it chose us? Not us, Thorn said. The idea of us. The beacon reacted. Its towers rose higher, emitting pulses toward the second Vault Watcher. Lines of alien code cascaded through the sky like static in geometry. And for the first time, the new Vault Watcher hesitated. Then it responded. Variance unauthorized. Conditional clearance revoked. Inheritance denied. A low rumble shook the ground. They're arguing, Kim said, awed. Like two gods disagreeing over what humanity should be. Rodriguez emerged from cover, carrying a railgun charged with something new. If they're gods, I say we remind them what it means to bleed. Petrov shook his head. That's not blood we're dealing with, man. That's cosmic bureaucracy. No difference, Rodriguez muttered. Either way, someone's dying. Thorn turned toward the beacon and placed her hand on the central console, a floating sphere now split into 3 rotating rings, each humming with intent. The armor around her shimmered, matching the code on the Vault Watcher. She sent a single signal. Not to the humans. Not to the machines. But to everything. I see you. And I choose us. The ground beneath the beacon shifted, not down, but inward. A platform rose from nowhere, carrying with it a figure. Tall. Shrouded in light. Its skin glowed like obsidian soaked in stars. The custodian. Its presence silenced even the warring Vault Watchers. It looked at Thorn, then at the squad behind her. Then at the sky, as if weighing time itself. You're not supposed to be here, it said, in perfect Earth standard. Asimov raised his weapon. Thorn lifted a hand. Stand down. We didn't choose to be, she replied. No one does, the custodian said. Not at first. It stepped onto the surface, no longer floating. Its form changed slightly, more human now. A gesture of respect. This place was not meant for you. Your species should never have reached the beacon. Then why did we? She asked. The custodian was silent for a long moment. Because, it said finally, you did what none of the others could. Thorn narrowed her eyes. What's that? You understood the test. A long pause. Then, softly, the custodian added. You saved those who tried to kill you. The custodian's words hung in the charged air like a blade balanced on its edge. You saved those who tried to kill you. Around them, Iridonis groaned, the very planet responding to the clash of powers above. Vault Watchers loomed like forgotten gods. Consortium forces, decimated but still functional, held their lines in confusion. And Omega Detachment, scarred but standing, waited for their captain to make sense of the impossible. Captain Thorn straightened, her armor dimming slightly as it synced with the beacon's calmer pulse. I didn't do it for them, she said quietly. I did it because we don't survive by becoming the thing that hunts us. Not anymore. The custodian's eyes glowed like a dying star. That is exactly why you were seen. It moved with silent grace across the battlefield, passing through the chaos untouched. Where its footfalls landed, the ground healed, broken stone knitting together, scorched earth sprouting brief flashes of blue grass before fading. You are the first to reject escalation, it said. Every species before you saw the Vault Watchers and built bigger blades. You offered understanding. Mercy. Even to your enemies. Kim stepped forward. And now what? Do we get welcomed into the Galactic Club of Ancient Secrets? No, the custodian replied. You get something far more dangerous. Petrov raised an eyebrow. Great. Because we were really starting to miss mortal peril. You get influence, the custodian said, facing Thorn again. You may now choose whether to awaken the other beacons. Across 100 forgotten worlds, buried beneath ash and ice, wait more keys. Each one a choice. A trial. And each one, watched. Thorn glanced toward the sky, where the first Vault Watcher remained dim, observant. The second had withdrawn slightly, no longer attacking, but still pulsing with potential annihilation. And if we say no? She asked. The custodian folded its arms. Then you remain as you are. Unjudged. Untouched. Forgotten. Rodriguez chuckled darkly. You hear that? We can go back to being tiny, irrelevant, and waiting for someone to glass our moon out of boredom. But if we say yes, Asimov added, we might light up half the galaxy. Or wake something worse than the consortium, Milo muttered. A long silence fell over them. Then Kim said softly, we've already been chosen, haven't we? There's no putting this back. The custodian nodded. No test can be untaken once begun. But the path from here remains yours to walk, or reject. Thorn breathed deeply, her fingers tightening over the control sphere. I was raised on stories, she said. Not myths. Real stories, flood zones in Jakarta, firestorms in California, orbital famines in Ceres. My parents survived Earth not because it gave them power, but because it taught them to adapt, to hope, and to carry others when they couldn't stand on their own. She looked at the custodian. You want to know what humans are? We're not warriors. We're not engineers. We're not explorers. She turned and looked at her team. We're survivors. And we bring others with us. The beacon pulsed once, not light, but understanding. The Vault Watchers shifted again. A corridor opened in the sky. Not a wormhole. Not a gate. A path. Built of thought and intent, woven from beacon code and ancient stellar mathematics. You have been offered the archive, the custodian said, voice now resonating across the planet. There, you will find the record of those who came before. The mistakes. The warnings. And the voices who dared challenge silence. Thorn looked to her team. Thoughts? Rodriguez shrugged. If we don't go, someone else will. Petrov cracked his knuckles. And they won't bring mercy. Asimov nodded. Besides, I always wanted to read the universe's classified files. Milo gave a tired smile. I'm with you. Just, try not to make first contact with another Vault Watcher for a few days. Kim tilted her head. Captain, if we do this, we stop being soldiers. No, Thorn replied. We become something more dangerous. She placed her palm on the sphere. The world fractured, not broken, not destroyed, but opened. They were no longer on Iridonis. They stood in a void filled with stars. But these weren't the stars of their galaxy. These stars moved, watched, whispered. And in the center, suspended like a pearl in thought, hung a vast structure, a library made of memory. The archive. Its walls shimmered with history. Voices layered in stone and song. Glyphs that rearranged themselves depending on who looked. Concepts encoded in gravitational eddies and holograms of extinct minds. The custodian hovered behind them. Welcome. Few have seen this place. Fewer still have walked it. One species left their mark here. Their legacy is yours to witness. Thorn stepped forward, her squad following. Somewhere in the archive's infinite depths, a door opened. And from within, something looked out. Not hostile. Not even alien. Familiar. The archive felt like memory given shape. Captain Thorn stood on a bridge of light, suspended above starfields that pulsed with meaning. Walls of thought curled into form, not static structures, but shifting configurations of logic, emotion, and time. Each step she took echoed not on stone, but in understanding. The rest of Omega detachment followed, speechless for once. Rodriguez removed his helmet, gazing around like a child stepping into myth. Petrov traced a pattern in the air that shimmered with invisible physics. Kim whispered a prayer she didn't remember learning. At the center of it all, a chamber unfolded. It wasn't built. It remembered itself into being. Inside stood a circle of figures, not alive, not AI, but echoes of species long vanished. Dozens of them, each unique, each bearing signs of once vast civilizations. Not ghosts. Not projections. Legacies. One stepped forward, an entity formed of obsidian spirals and luminous threads. Its voice rang in their minds without language. You are the first. Thorn nodded. The custodian said others came before us. They did. None stayed. They sought weapons, power, or escape. You came seeking meaning. Asimov stepped forward, skeptical. We came because your artifact tore our captain out of time and nearly killed us. The spiral figure tilted its head. And yet, you followed. A pause. That is what separates predators from people. Milo glanced around. So what is this, then? A library? A judgment? A trap? A choice, the figure replied. This archive holds the keys to worlds lost, knowledge forbidden, truths hidden even from the stars. But to unlock it fully, you must do what no species has ever done. Thorn's voice was calm. Let me guess. Trust someone else with it. The figure pulsed in affirmation. Yes. To access the whole, you must share it. Not with your leaders. Not with your military. But with those who know what it means to be small. To be afraid. And choose compassion anyway. The team fell silent. Rodriguez scratched the back of his neck. So, this is a galactic trust test. More like a soul mirror, Kim muttered. The archive's light dimmed, shifting to a cooler hue. Another legacy stepped forward, this one crystalline, with faces on every surface, rotating in layered contradiction. We give you the keys, it said. But the door leads through others. The more you share, the more is revealed. The more you hoard, the more is lost. Petrov folded his arms. You're asking us to give this to the very people who might weaponize it. No, Thorn said. They're asking us to teach them not to. A silence. Not doubt. Understanding. Then Thorn turned, looking each of her team in the eye. We're soldiers. We've been shaped by war. But that can't be all we are. If we take this home, if we choose to open this to the world, it changes everything. Milo nodded. We'd better make sure it changes the right things. Rodriguez shrugged. I never wanted to be a diplomat. But if it comes with saving the world, I guess I'll put on a tie. Kim looked toward the archive's ceiling, a shifting galaxy above them. We'll be seen. Not as a threat. Not as a mistake. But as a voice. Finally. Thorn stepped onto the final platform. The archive responded. Columns of light rose around her, mapping her memories. She saw Earth, broken, beautiful. The burning skies of 2047. The reclamation wars. The frozen exodus from Europa. Her mother's hands, covered in hydroponic dirt. Her father's silence at the end of everything. And then, Iridonis. Not a battlefield. A beginning. The archive folded closed like a book returning to its shelf. The first chapter has been written. The Vault Watchers, watching from orbit, shifted formation. The second, once hostile, now hovered low, scanning. Observing. The first released a burst of symbols into space, a transmission, echoed by 1,000 hidden receivers. Not a message of war. A notice. Something has changed. Back in Earth orbit, relay satellites flickered. On Mars, a deep scanner station began receiving data streams that defied encryption. On Titan, a blind astronomer cried as she felt something brush against the outer edges of thought, whispering you are not forgotten. And on 1,000 other worlds, ancient eyes opened. Captain Thorn stepped out of the archive with her team, back on Iridonis, the sky clear now. No ships fired. No armies moved. Just stars. I think, she said softly, we just became the story. Kim laughed. Now we've got to live up to it. Rodriguez nodded toward the crater. Then let's start writing. Above them, the Vault Watchers turned, not away, but outward, transmitting. Not surveillance. An invitation. If you liked this sci-fi story, subscribe to the channel to not miss new stories.